And so I kept having these experimental surgeries as a young kid. And so my mum was there advocating for me, and she was like my voice for so long. They were hard decisions. There was no, Google that you could really dive in to do in-depth research on. And she was just winging it. So, she's been there for me. She's been there through everything and made me sort of know that I can do and be anything that I want to be. So, yeah, I don't think if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be who I am.
Welcome to the Legacy Collective podcast. My name's Brendan from School Fun Run. Today I'm talking to Ella Sabljak. Ella has represented Australia in 2 different disciplines at the Paralympic Games, and our chat today revolves around surrounding yourself in life with the right people so you can maximise your opportunities. All right, you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, let's jump into it. Well, I'm keen to ask you about the important stuff first.
Yeah.
So what kind of dogs do you love? Because I believe you're a big dog lover.
Oh my gosh, yes, I love my dogs. We have Groodles, so Golden Retriever Cross Poodle, and she is the light of my life, Ivy, and my husband's parents have 2 other, one is a Groodle and I think one's a Cavoodle, but they are big teddy bears that take up the entire space in the bed.
How old's is it Ivy?
Yeah, she's 9.
Oh, wow, you've had her for a long time, so she really is a big part of your life.
Yeah, massive. So she's an absolute menace to anybody who walks past our house.
Yeah.
She'll let you know that that's her territory.
And do you think life's better with a dog?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Advocate for that?
100%.
Love
She's
it.
the best.
All right, cool. Well, I'm sure you're a big part of her life too, even though she might not say that a lot.
Oh, I don't know. I think she likes my husband more than me.
Oh, true?
Yeah.
Wow. We actually had to get a second dog in our family because we had a female dog and she became like daddy's girl, and then my partner couldn't handle it, so we had to get a second dog for her. So I know well, I don't know what that feels like, but I know someone that does. So I read somewhere that you said that Paralympians are not born, they're made. And I was really interested in that statement because I'd like you to talk to, or explain to me a little bit about more. How does that work? Like, who made you into the Paralympian that you are? And just talk about that statement a little bit. Yeah,
so Paralympians are made quite, by design through our system. So one thing that we know is disability isn't an option. It's a fact of life, so it can happen to anybody, anywhere, anytime, through illness, sickness. You could be born with it. Who knows? So the fact that we have our Paralympic Games to provide people with disability an option to compete in elite sport at, in the high performance space, it is designed to, empower people with a disability to go out and achieve incredible things. If we didn't have the Paralympics, there wouldn't be the athletes that we see in our media, like Ali Cole, Kurt Fearnley, Dylan Alcott, they're massive personalities. And if it wasn't for the Paralympics, they wouldn't be, who they are. I wouldn't be who I am. And so it's generally parents and, the family and the communities of kids who have a disability that create these spaces for everybody to be included as well.
And was that a big part of your childhood growing up? Like, were you watching the Paralympics and thinking one day I'd like to do that?
No, I had no idea about the Paralympics.
True.
No idea. I had a teacher once. I think Sydney. Must have been around Sydney, and we did an Olympics unit at school, and then the teacher, when the Paralympics came around, the teacher did a bit of a Paralympic unit, and that's when I first learnt about the Paralympics, and I did an assignment on Louise Savage and looked up to her, and but obviously I didn't know that I could compete. I just thought, wow, this is awesome. I didn't think of a differentiate between the Olympics or the Paralympics.
Sure.
It was just
I guess like most kids, you're watching things, but you think it's not for me, right? That's for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. And so if it wasn't for those teachers that showed me that this exists,
Yeah.
I probably would never have known. And then even when I was embedded into the Paralympic or, even like para sport space, it didn't register that it was for me either. I saw my friends go over to Beijing and compete in Beijing, and I was like, oh, how cool, they're on TV.
Yeah.
Not once did it jerry that maybe that could be me.
Really?
Either. Yeah.
So when did that happen then? When was it apparent to you that this was something that you could be great at?
Yeah, really good question. I think maybe post London. I saw my teammates. I was playing wheelchair basketball at the time. Mm-hmm. My teammates went to London where they came home with a silver medal, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But I never saw myself in that space because I wasn't in that world. I was just playing for fun.
Yeah, sure.
So I never thought, I could be that person. And then, maybe post London, I made some big changes in my life and moved up to Queensland and started training, and then went away with the Oz team, and I was like, oh, okay, this is actually a possibility.
And is that a decision that you made for yourself, or was that something that you did in consultation? Did someone say to you, Ella, this could be for you, or did you just decide, oh, this could be for me?
Oh, I don't know. I think obviously there are conversations that are happening around, and as a female with a disability who played a team sport, I was kind of fast-tracked a little bit to play, state level basketball, wheelchair basketball or whatnot. So those people saw potential in me, and they were like, come along the journey and let's play. So, yeah, it wasn't, I think it was always put in front of me, if you want this, you have to do X, Y, Z and work really hard.
And how long ago are we talking, just for my context, when you say London?
2012.
2012.
Yeah, so even before that, maybe like 2010, 2011. During my high school years, I never wanted to play para sport. Didn't want a bar of it.
Yeah.
Wasn't for me, wasn't cool.
Yeah.
Obviously I was a young girl with a disability, still trying to figure out my identity.
Yeah.
And I just associated parasport with people in wheelchairs.
Yeah. And do you think it's, because that was, 10, 12 years ago, do you think it's come a long way since then? Like when you were that little girl looking at the world, do you think there's little girls and boys now at primary school that are living with a disability? Do you think the world is a lot more open to them in terms of hopes and dreams just because of social media and, as you say, like the rise of the Paralympic Games and things like this?
Yeah, I think so. I 100% think so. I think there's more opportunities now for people to play parasport in whatever way they want to play. If they want to play wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby, para athletics, whatever it may be, swimming. There's so many more opportunities out there. So when I first was doing, I started with swimming as a young kid. And, when you have a disability, you have to be classified to fit into the classification system. So you're swimming against people with similar level of ability to you. And I was swimming, and someone told me that I wasn't classifiable for swimming. So therefore, that one person then pushed me away from swimming because I was like, okay, well then this isn't for me. But now you could go down to Carrara Indoor Stadium. We've got a wheelchair basketball club there. It's happening. It's in your face. At Griffith University there's the track that they do para-athletics on a Saturday morning. We've got our para sport embedded into the high performance strategy through the Australian Sport Commission. So from the top down and then bottom up, nowadays, access to sport is it's so much more available than when I was a kid. I'm not saying it's great now.
Yeah.
We still have a long way to go. But you can do a quick Google and find something near you.
Sure. And that's the things that you just spoke about are very tangible, mechanical things. Like there's places to go and play different sports and it's more available, I guess. On a personal level, like just talking about your legacy now, do you ever stop and think that you're a part of that? Like from a I don't want to say marketing point of view, but if a kid sees themselves in someone else, it's more likely they're going to aspire to go in that path. So by you doing what you've done and playing, multiple sports at the highest level, do you just sit back and have a level of pride to say that you might be inspiring someone to go to those type of events that you just talked about?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see myself having a part of it, and I think I do. We were out at a school. I used to run wheelchair basketball demonstrations with kids in schools, where we would run, year 12 or high school kids in wheelchair basketball. And they had a young girl at this school in prep with, she had AFOs, which are splints on your leg, and she was in prep. And one of the teachers saw that, we had wheelchair basketball, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll bring her out and she can experience this. Oh my God, she reminded me so much of me when I was a kid, this little sassy girl who came up and told a year 12 kid to get out of a chair, it's my turn, jumped in this chair and just played. She was queen. She was out there dominating, like just freedom.
Yeah.
I saw her and her mum a couple of years later at a local basketball tournament up in Brisbane, and I recognised staring at her, and I was like, is that her? Surely, like, she's grown up so much. Obviously now she's probably in grade 4, not prep, and she's playing, and her mum comes up to me and she said, thank you so much. If you didn't come out to her school and you didn't show that she could play this sport, we would never have been exposed to this.
Yeah.
And so just her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it warms my heart every time I think about her. And now, like, with all my free time after sport, I'm starting up a women and girls only basketball session, wheelchair basketball on the Gold Coast, because of her. And like the young girls that are coming up that, I didn't have opportunity like they do. And I want to make sure that there's a safe environment for these young girls to compete in sport, however they like, because we've got stuff now. So I don't think if it wasn't for her, like, I probably wouldn't have been motivated to do it, but she just reminded me so much of me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to.
I love that story. Like, we call this the Legacy Collective, because that legacy, like that feeling, like I've never competed at, high levels like you, but I feel like that's worth more than a gold medal. Like, that's your legacy, like to inspire other people to do great things. It kind of feels better than doing great things yourself, which is the whole point of this. So that is an absolutely amazing story for you to share. And I guess leading on from that, if you inspired that little girl, and I know she inspires you too, but who inspired you the way that you inspired her?
Oh, I think, my mum was always someone in my life she was always constant. And so she was the one there advocating for me, fighting for me as a young girl. I grew up with having multiple surgeries because I didn't know, how to, I don't know, not what was wrong with me. They knew, what my condition was, but they didn't know how to, like, fix my gait and, like, my walking. I kept having foot drop. And so I kept having these experimental surgeries as a young kid that I had no idea about. And so my mum was there advocating for me, and she was like my voice for so long. And I think back now and I'm like, they were hard decisions. Like, back, mid-90s, there was no, Google that you could really dive in to do in-depth research on. And she was just winging it. So, she's been there for me. She's been there through everything and made me sort of know that I can do and be anything that I want to be. So, yeah, I don't think if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be who I am.
Yeah, thanks, Mum. Hey? It's interesting how adversity can really bring people together like that. Like, just from my personal experience, I lost a partner to cancer when I was in my mid-30s, and she was as well. And people always say to me, like, oh, I'm really sorry for your loss. But in actual fact, it was some of the most beautiful experiences of my life was being with her and going through that journey with her, because I couldn't control the outcome. Like, I'm not responsible for the outcome, right? But what I could do was make our time together great. And I'm really proud that I had the chance to do that. But if she was not unwell or not dying with cancer, maybe I would have taken a lot of that for granted. So it was the adversity that really focused the love. And I think that, like, it's beautiful for me to hear that story, and the respect that you pay to your mum for doing all that for you. And she's obviously had a big impact on you. So we obviously have a lot of parents that will listen to this chat. And it's just great to hear that level of impact, and that we shouldn't take those days for granted, because not everyone's going through such a big moment with their daughter like your mum did. But every day is still precious, and I think it's important we keep remembering that as we go through life.
Yeah.
So your mum must have been super, I guess your whole family, but specifically your mum, based on your story, like, to watch you develop and play for Australia in 2 different disciplines, she must just be incredibly proud, right?
Yeah, she is. The first time she saw me compete for Australia was at the Com Games in 2022. So I'd already been, a fair chunk of my career she hadn't seen me compete. So we made sure that, because I didn't know that, I thought that was going to be my last time competing for Australia.
Yeah, fair enough.
So my mum, like, well, obviously they were going to come to Tokyo, but COVID happened and then we couldn't get anybody over to Tokyo. So we made sure mum came over to that to watch me compete, and she had the best time. She loved it. She was so happy, and she just kept saying, I'm so proud of you, I'm so proud. And then, you know, she saw me compete in Paris as well. And I always think back to, you know, my 21st birthday when, you know, you do speeches, and that's all she said. I had to take the mic off her. I'm like, Mum, calm. She's like, I'm just so proud of you. I'm like, God, Mum, you're embarrassing me. Like, stop it. But I think back to that, and I'm just like, oh, you know, now, like, I'm so glad that she's able to enjoy this part of our life.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah, because she put in so much work in the early days, right? Yeah, that's beautiful. Just going back to the idea of kids at primary school, what do you have any advice if there's a primary school student listening to us, and maybe they have their own version of disability and the world might seem limiting to them, I guess, in some capacity? Is there any advice that you can pass on?
There's a lot of things that you have to work through and figure out for yourself in this world, whether it be, you know, your own identity, how you fit in to your friendship group, who, you know, your people are around you. So I think it's just finding those people who will always be honest with you, who always tell you straight, you know, this is the reality of the world, but we're going to work through it together, and we're going to find out whatever it is, and we're going to do it together. So I think it's, you know, really finding those people that you trust to help you shape who you are, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. It's very good advice. I
believe parasport and my immersion in this world helped shape me who I am. It helped me find my own voice, because like I said, you know, my mum spoke for me for so long, but I was around people who were like me, and it just was normal. It was normal. So, yeah, finding those people that you trust and that are like you, they're worth their weight in gold.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And setbacks in your career, athletic career, have you had many of them? And
lots.
Okay. What are the ones that come to mind, and how do you deal with setbacks?
Yeah, really good question. I think we didn't qualify for the Paralympic Games in 2015 for the 2016 Rio Paralympic Games. So as a team, we have to qualify, and we didn't. So we thought the world was ending. We were like,
and sorry, which year was this?
that was 2015.
Was that at the start of your career?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
pretty much. Yeah,
So it was a stepping off point where it left you pretty hungry. I'm guessing, but
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to clarify where you were at this point in your career.
So that was my first time in the national team qualifying for a games. I've already been through a couple of junior tournaments. So we did the under-25 Worlds in 2011 and 2015, where we were quite successful. And
then this came along.
along, yeah. So we didn't qualify. We had to beat China. And I think we lost by 5 points. I mean, I keep saying 5 points. I mean, I could be wrong, but maybe it just
was that a game you were expected to win, or was it always going to be close?
It was always going to be close.
Right, okay.
China, we don't see them for 4 years, and then they come out of nowhere.
Okay.
And then just beat you up.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
And destroy your soul. So yeah, they were a tough opponent, and we didn't qualify. We had half the team throwing the towel, half the team retired. The other half of the team, like the younger girls, they were just in that under-25 World Championships. We were like, well, what now? What does that mean now? And so dealing with that, we had to go home, take a bit of time off, regroup, think about what we wanted, how we're going to get there, and then go from there.
So the way that you dealt with the setback then was reflection, by the sound of it, and really recalibrating as to what it is that you wanted, and then pushing forward and go and getting it. And I believe it's the next lot of Olympic campaigns went pretty good.
Yeah, so we qualified for Tokyo for the Paralympics in 2019, right before the world shut down. So that was an incredible feeling, qualifying. That was the best. I remember standing there when we qualified, and just half the team were the girls that we didn't qualify with, and the other half were the new lot of girls coming through. And it was just like, shit, yeah, we've done it.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah, this is how it's supposed to be.
This is that feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was amazing, that feeling.
Could we go back, touch on the disappointment of missing out and then the joy of feeling like that? Your teammates at the time, or your coaching staff, or even your family. I'm interested in if you could pick a couple of people that stand out for you at those times and shared those moments with you. Did anybody give you any good advice or any support that you would like to talk about?
My husband actually, so he played for the Rollers, which is the men's wheelchair basketball team, and he was so crucial in my career, my development, because he he grew up playing sport before he was in a chair and all of these other things. So he had a really good view of the world. And going into this, he's just enjoy the moment. Just enjoy it. Don't put pressure on yourself. It's going to happen if you just play free. So I've always played free in my career. I don't like too many restrictions on me. I just want to feel and play on intuition. And so he knew that about me, and the majority of our girls also looked up to him, because he would just give the best advice when you needed it.
I've never, obviously different worlds, but I've actually never heard the phrase play free together.
Really?
I've never heard that, but I love that, because I can totally get what he's saying. If you let the moment squash who you are, you're not going to rise to that challenge. But if you just literally play free, everything that you've ever wanted and dreamed, at least it becomes possible.
Yeah.
If you're in your shell, it's not going to be possible for you on the court. So just play free.
Well, you start over-analysing things, right? You start overthinking things, start overcomplicating, what should just be natural, because we've done all the hard work.
Yeah.
So just
Just play free.
Go out and reap the rewards.
I love that. That's such great advice. I'm so glad I asked that question. That's such good advice.
I know. I think I take that too literally sometimes. I'm like,
I think he regrets giving you that
I'm
advice.
listen to the coach.
Oh, that's great. Was there anyone else other than your husband that stands out for you in either the good or the bad times there?
Yeah, like my teammates, Annabelle and Amber and Georgia in that team, they were crucial to us, I think. We had like a bit of a survival instinct with us. We were like, we've been through this together, like bit of a, I don't know what the thing is, but it's kind of like, you've been through this traumatic event of not qualifying. And now we've done it. We've done it all, and we're here together. And they were just so. They were the best. Like if they weren't there, I don't think we would have qualified. But really kept the team together in that. And so there's not just one person in this journey that provided that for us. It was the whole team. But those girls, especially for me, were my go-to, my coffee pals. We would just spend hours talking about nothing, not even about basketball. Yeah. So the friendship there just outweighs anything.
So your teammates were your friends, essentially, and you were just playing sport with your friends.
Yeah.
What a beautiful way to be.
Yeah.
And what have you learnt, like playing team sports, just sticking on the theme of teams, what have you learnt? Like they've obviously put things in your life, but what have you taken away from your team sport experience?
Respect.
Okay.
Always respecting like everybody, but in a team sport context, always respect the opponent. So, I had to learn it the hard way. We had World Championships in 2018 in Germany, and we're playing Spain for, I think it was a quarterfinal or a crossover. Anyway, we had to win the game. And we just didn't respect them. We thought they were not worth. We're like, no, we're better than them. Our team, on paper, we'd beat them 2 or 3 times previously in a practice match. And they came out in this game and they dominated us. So from that moment forward, I was like, I don't care who we're playing. If we're playing number 1 or number 24 in the world, I don't care. Like, it is the respect that we need to give them. Yeah. Because you can't just assume it's going to happen. You have to go and work and get it. Yeah. Because as soon as you stop respecting your opponent or people around you, why? What's the point? Like, it's just, you're not better than yet. Like,
I guess it leaves you vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Which is what happened in that case.
Yep.
And that's great advice too.
Yeah.
Love it.
That respect.
What do you consider to be your greatest achievement?
Yeah, I could probably sit here and, say all my medals, like they're flowing out of nowhere. But my greatest achievement is just, getting married. We own a house. We live such a happy, rich life. And that to me outweighs everything. My family around me, my husband, my dog Ivy, and the people around me, like, that's my greatest achievement over any accolades.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that, because it's available to everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like, not everybody's going to play sport for Australia, but everybody can inspire someone, which you did with that little girl, and everyone has the chance to create a beautiful family life, which you've done. So I think that's a really empowering thing to share with people.
Yeah, and like, we've created it by design. Like, what do we want in our life? And we've really thought about it, and we've done it. And sport's just along the journey.
What's your hopes, like, with the games in 2032? that must have a big impact on accessibility to different things. So what does that mean? Like, how does that occur to you that Brisbane's hosting those games?
Yeah, it's going to be sick. I cannot wait. You know, I'm privy to a lot of conversations that are happening with Brisbane 2032, just with my work that because I work for Paralympics Australia. And so we're having these conversations around the games, and we're talking about it. And one thing that I keep bringing up is make sure that we are having people with lived experience embedded along the journey in every decision-making process that we do. So, you know, there's the whole saying, you know, nothing about us without us. And so making sure that when the games come, we've done everything we possibly can to make sure that these games are as accessible for not only everyone, but the people that, you know, could be forgotten about. So it's making sure that somebody who's, you know, perceived as having the most severe disability can access the games. And how do they access it? And how do they access their community first and foremost, so that they can get to the games and the venues and everything safely, and can engage in all the activities and whatnot however they choose to. So that's my hopes, and that's my, you know, my big vision for the games. And I think we're on the right path. I think it's going to be an exceptional games.
We talked about your mum and the impact that she had. Is there anyone else? We also talked about your husband, I guess, in a related to missing out on the Olympics the first time.
Yep.
But is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to or recognise for helping make you who you are today?
Yeah, my nana, she is one of the best nannas, the MVP of our world.
Of nannas. I love it.
You know, like, my childhood was pretty rough, and Nana was always there. Like, she would always go to Nana's and it's all good. Sit there and she'd tell stories and just yup away. And yeah, so she would just be the anchor to the family as well. So Nana gave me my first chair to play. Like, I didn't have any money to buy a chair. Mm-hmm. And I needed a chair to play because the one I was using was really crappy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she bought me my first chair, just no questions asked.
There's a legacy just in that, right?
Yeah. No questions asked here. Here's, I think it was like $4,000, and I was 17 at the time. Like, where would I get $4,000?
Yeah,
from?
Sure.
So yeah, she just like, yep, yeah, the chair. So if it wasn't for that and for her and everything that she's done for us and our family, like, probably wouldn't be where I am either.
That's another great answer. Can we jump back to your school life for a minute? I just want to talk a bit about like what school was like for you, specifically primary school, because that's who we deal with is primary school kids. So what was primary school like for you? Not great.
It was not great. Like, it was fine. But I was in a school that was 2 stories and I can walk upstairs, but not very safely. Mm-hmm. And they put me in an upstairs classroom at this school, and I fell down the stairs a couple of times, and the school just didn't realise that they needed to make this reasonable adjustment to move the classroom downstairs.
Yeah.
And as a teacher now, I wouldn't think twice about that.
Yeah.
Sure, we can make that happen. And yeah, they didn't know a lot about disability. I was the only kid in the school that had a physical disability. So the way that they did things was, again, I was a guinea pig in how we're going to do it. It was always, we'll see if this works or whatnot. So the upstairs classroom, then I got moved down, which was brilliant. And I remember my PE teacher, who now was doing the best that they could. Back then had no idea about parasport, no idea. I remember I was in grade 2 and I did a wheelchair basketball thing, it must have on the weekend or something. Was first exposed to wheelchair basketball when I was in grade 2. And I came to school and I was so excited, and I told the teacher about wheelchair basketball, and instead of including me in the activity, he's like, just go sit over there and pretend to push a wheelchair. So I was like, okay, and it was just bizarre to me thinking about it. But if it wasn't for those experiences, again, I remember them because they were really important in my development. I wouldn't be able to go back and try and influence and change PE teachers now to make PE more inclusive for everybody. There are many options out there to make everything more inclusive. There's so many, sports that you can adapt to include everybody. But yeah, primary school, my classroom teachers were wonderful. They were great. Like I said about that teacher who taught me about the Paralympic Games, she was fantastic. But we also have to remember it was the mid-90s as well. So there wasn't a lot of emphasis on inclusion as it is now, because I think schools have gone to that inclusive model rather than the integration of bringing special schools in to mainstream schools. It is immersed into schools now, so it is normal.
Yeah, I do think it's a different world.
So different.
At School Fun Run here, we work with a school on the Sunshine Coast called Chancellor State College, and they have a little boy there, Finn, who lost arms and legs to meningococcal, and he goes to that school. But the school, it's a normal state school. It's not a special school, and it's possible for him to go there because the school community makes it possible. And every time I go to that school, I always just think it's just an amazing community because, and I guess we have come a long way, but at the same time, you say back in the mid-90s, someone my age, it doesn't feel like that long ago. No. It seems like we've come a long way in a short period of time, and I know that there's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
But gee, the mid-90s, that wasn't that long ago.
No.
You're not talking about the 1800s.
No.
You're talking about, a couple of decades ago.
But if you think about the advances in, curriculum and whatnot since then, and making, differentiating learning and learning styles, and so much more knowledge is placed on to that, which opens up so many more perspectives around learning and teaching. So we have to make sure in the classroom that every student is being catered for academically now and physically. But back then it was kind of all together, we'll all learn the same thing.
Sure.
And everybody will be the same. But in saying that, you talk about community. My friends at school, I'm still friends with them now from primary school. They were the best. They made sure that, they included me in everything. And not once did I feel like my disability was an issue or used against me or whatever it may be. It was or maybe we'll walk this way because it's there's no stairs this way, so then Ella can walk with us instead of me just doing it by myself. So the group of friends that I had in school, they were the best, and they still are.
Yeah, I wonder if there's something we can talk about there for primary school kids that are listening, the power that they have that they might not know that they have. Because as you say, one bad comment can inspire someone, but it can also have the opposite effect. And one good comment can also go a long way. And if you do, with your friends, they were obviously good friends, for a long time, including up till now, and that meant so much to you. So I don't know what the comment is, but from your lived experience with those peers at primary school, is there anything you want to say to kids that might be listening that have that power to influence someone else's life?
I think the biggest thing is to understand and have that empathy of what someone else is going through. And if you are not sure, ask. Ask the question, do you need help? If you need help, how can I help you? Or that's just basic level.
But I do think that's really important, because asking a question, like, knowledge is such a important part of that conversation. And if you don't know how to be the way that you might want to be, then you're just going to be something else.
Yeah.
Like if you ask the question, it might open up a pathway, answer some things for you, and then you have a way to be the person that you want to be.
Yeah.
As opposed to just not knowing.
Yeah. And so often primary school age kids, they just want to know, why do you walk funny? This is why. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. Like, it's just so clear cut with, we're going to be honest. Yes. Now I'm going to get to know you as a person. Kids make connections through, what's your favorite color? Like, what do you like to do on the weekend? Like, these are my toys, or whatever it may be. That's how we make connection. And if everything is if we're able to access it, and, little, what was the boy's name?
Oh, Finn.
Yeah, little Finn. If he can't play with, like, the Lego, for example, what's another activity that he can do? So again, it's by design in creating an environment that he can be successful with his peers, not just like, I don't know,
left out,
putting him somewhere where he has to cut a bunch of paper up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You want to be in it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just like being a good person. Just be a good person. Be curious. Ask questions. And you're not going to offend anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So what are you up to now? I know we talked on your role with Parasports.
Yep.
I hear that you're involved with the podcast.
Yeah.
And do you want to talk a bit about what you're up to there, and maybe touch again on the basketball?
Yeah. So I am an occasional co-host with a podcast called You Little Ripper, hosted by Kurt Fernley, and we speak to other Paralympic athletes around their journey in sport, and really empowering the Paralympians in our community to share their story. And so that's the podcast. It's really fun. I get to meet a lot of other Paralympians that, I may not have met along my journey, and find out more about them and their sport, which is really cool. And also we are just starting a women's National League wheelchair basketball team on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So we're in the process of getting that set up through Gold Coast Basketball, and it'll be a Queensland women's team, but based out of the Gold Coast. And we are going to compete in the National League, which is super exciting. Also, additional to that, we're having women and girls only wheelchair basketball training sessions on a Saturday morning at Carrara. So anybody can come along. You don't have to have a disability, or you do. We've chairs available at Carrara for everybody to come and jump in.
That's good to know.
So, that's what I'm doing in all my spare time that I'm not training.
So, Ella, thanks very much for spending time with us on the Legacy Collective podcast today. If anyone out there wants to connect with you and find out more about what you're up to, where can they do that?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me on my Instagram, which is e.sabss, ESABS. Or if you want to get involved in parasport in general, you can go to the Paralympics Australia website, and there's a Get Involved form on the website. But other than that, come down to Carrara on a Saturday morning, and we're starting in the new year, and come along. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much. I've really enjoyed chatting to you, and there was some amazing advice in there, like truly great stuff. I'd be so proud to share this. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Legacy Collective podcast, copyright by School Fun Run. Today's episode was brought to you by Funzy. You can find out more at funzy.com.au. And if you'd like to access other podcasts, we produce one called Chase the Fun. It's narrated by Chase the Cheetah, and it's made specifically for kids in primary school to help them develop characters to become the best human beings they can be. See you in the next episode.